Welcome to another edition of Ride the Magnific's Coffee and Beats. I am your musical barista, Ride the Magnificent, and I got another review show for you. Ooh. Welcome to the show, and I have cheated.
I've cheated on my homemade.
Usually I have my homemade coffee in store for you guys, but I went on and put my name on it. Yep.
I put my name on it.
I went and drunk the whole pumpkin spice latte Kool-Aid. Yes, that's what I got. A little pumpkin spice latte Kool-Aid. And yeah, it's pretty good. But I want to ask you guys, what do you think of pumpkin spice latte? I hear a lot of people saying,
oh, it's overrated. It's not that good. It's overhyped.
Just because it's October doesn't mean you have to go get a pumpkin spice latte.
Let me know what you think in the comment section. But I'm going to explain the reason why I am cheating today on homemade is because of stupid Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime was late with my delivery.
I was so disappointed, so distraught. Yeah, they gave me that, oh, we'll be here at 9 o'clock. Didn't show up. And now I'm here drinking Starbucks, unfortunately. And so, yes, and as you can see, my straw doesn't want me to be great. But with that being said, I got a great show for you. Many albums to review. I got a gauntlet style of albums to review, a lot of things that I've missed over the last month or so. So I'm going to go through these reviews. Hopefully you find something you really like. And what I'm going to do differently in this episode is I'm not going to ramble off the songs that I liked and disliked. You'll just see that in the description below. So get your playlist ready. And while you're listening to the show, look at the description box, type in some of those albums and song recommendations that I got in your Spotify or in your Apple Music, and enjoy. Starting off with our first review, Jenevieve with her debut album, Divison. And I'm so happy to do this review. If you are a follower, an avid follower of Coffee and Beats, I did feature her in my Artist to Watch segment, and yes, here she is with her first album. She's a Florida native. This album features 12 tracks, rounding out at about a little over 35 minutes, and Jenevieve hits us with a vibrant yet straightforward R&B album. She exploded on the scene with 3 fire singles in a row, and she did it similar to a rookie baseball player hitting 3 home runs in his first 3 at bats. However, with her new release, not only does Jenevieve show she can hold her own, but she shows versatility with the different styles of production on this record, which I will get into in a minute. Now, as far as the content of this album, is pretty basic R&B topics that are touched on. However, on some songs, she does it with a nice little edge. For example, songs like Baby Powder, where she comes in like, she's just coming in like, listen, I got all this hair, you know, I look like her, but don't get me confused. I ain't like her. She's not gonna play mind tricks with you. I am who I am. Getting into the production, like I said earlier, Benzie Boy is responsible for most of the production on this album. I'm not quite familiar on work he's done with other artists. I will say I was thoroughly impressed with most of the beat selections on here, and some of these are very vibrant and spacey, but then he'll switch it up and hit you with more hard-hitting tracks that really combines well with Genevieve's vocals. Now, my only knock to this album is originality, as it comes off very similar to an artist like, for example, Joyce Rice. Now, vocally, Genevieve's presence isn't as felt on some of these songs because the production basically outshines her in some little areas, but all in all, I like the vibrant personality that she brings to her music, and she shows a lot of promise, and I look forward to listening to more of her albums in the future. Overall, I give this one a 7 out of 10. Definitely an easy listen, and I look forward to hearing more of her music in the future. With Divison, Jenevieve shows a lot of promise. Up next, we got JMSN, or JMSN, but I like to call him Jameson, and he's dropped his new LP, Heals Me. Now, I don't have to do a background on JMSN. If you don't know who he is by now, this dude is a R&B legend. I mean, this dude is all the way from his vocals to his production to his talents. This guy is a triple threat, and this is definitely a share the aux with your girl or your wife type record. The vocals on all of these songs are outstanding. I absolutely love the lyrical content on this album. There are some moments in the album where he takes a little step back and gets a little deeper into his more personal experiences and relationships, but hands down, this is an excellent album. If you haven't heard it, please do yourself a favor and listen to it. And that's my message to all the fellas out there. I'm sure all the females that are watching this have already listened to it and probably saying,
I know, Ronnie, I know.
This is for the fellas, man. If you want to impress your girl or if you want to impress your wife with some good, smooth, silky music, this is the album for you. Go check it out and share that aux cord with her. You won't regret it. 9 out of 10 for me. Definitely a top album of the year list ender for me. This album would definitely be featured on that end of the year list. Up next, we got Men I Trust, Untourable album. This is their 4th studio project featuring 13 tracks rounding off at about 36 minutes. This band is led by lead singer Jesse Karen, specializing in giving you some of the most coziest electro pop music you'll ever hear all year. Just get your blanket or quilt, get into your beds, snuggle on your couch, get you some coffee, and just pop this one in. It's so smooth. The album is very blissful and soothing to listen to. Jesse's vocals are very soft and mellow. The production is easy on the ears. It's a lot more upbeat than their last project, Uncle Jazz, where they combine jazz and dream pop together. For example, songs like Sugar and Oh Dove, they go down smooth like an iced chocolate mocha or
A pumpkin spice latte.
her down-tempo selections are very smooth as well. This definitely is a summer morning album that just gets your day off to a good start. Production and vocals are smooth. And if you're a fan of more mellow dream pop, overall, I give this one an 8 out of 10. I really appreciate it. You will appreciate it as well. Go check it out. Up next, we got Nala Sinephro with her new album, Space 1.8. And this is her debut album. The genre is jazz here. If you're a little confused about,
I never seen this album before. What is Ronnie recommending now?
this album features 8 tracks rounding off at about 45 minutes. Now, that's pretty long for 8 tracks. And why is that? Well, it's because it's a listening experience. It combines a lot of elements of space, solar system sounds infused with jazzy instrumentals, and this is a super relaxing album to listen to. It's easy on the ears. And side note, Nala is responsible for 100% of the production of this project. That means she's a multiple instrumentalist and a super talent. If you are a fan of Miles Davis, Robert Glasper, Jill Scott Heron, and many other jazz greats, you will thoroughly enjoy this project. However, there are times on this album that gets a little too spacious. With all of the sound effects on some of the tracks, you can get a little lost in listening to this album, but I still enjoyed it. Check it out if you're a jazz fan or you just want to challenge your eardrums to something new. I give this one a 7 out of 10. Up next, we got Night Jewel with her new album, her 5th studio album, No Sun. And I've been a huge fan of her music for a long time. Her first album, Good Evening, which debuted in 2009, was my introduction to her music, and I was intrigued by her rough and rugged style of music. Her vocals, although at times muffled, it was just something about her sound that I really liked, and it drew me to her music, and it was different. And ever since the end, all of her albums she's dropped up until this point sounded different from each other. She never gives you the same sounding album with each release. 4 years ago, she dropped her last album, Real High, which was very bright. It was probably one of her most brightest and most vibrant albums to date. And in my opinion, it's her best album out of her collection. So if you want to get a good start, I would say start there if you want to get a good feel of her music. However, with this new album, No Sun, she takes a more darker, gloomier approach to her record. It almost sounds like electronic background horror music. The production is a little too off balance for me. For example, tracks like To Feel It, it starts off good, but then when the beats switch up, you kind of find yourself having a difficult time trying to groove to the song. Some of the songs and the production is all over the place. Vocally, Night Jewel still delivers, but the production keeps you from enjoying this project thoroughly. And at the end of the day, this is not my favorite effort from Night Jewel. It's not a bad album. It has some bright spots, but the rough patches outweighed the bright spots. So I'm gonna give this one a disappointed out of 10. Listen, if you want to give this album a shot, feel free to do so. I've been trying to give this album a chance, and there are some good songs on here. There's some good highlights, but I just really didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed her previous projects. Up next, we got Zoe Shanghai with their debut album, Lava Love.
Lots of debut albums on this episode.
This is their debut album, which features Barcelona native and lead singer and guitarist Zoe Shanghai and her three-piece band. For her debut album, Lava Love, Zoe and the crew hits us with a very jazzy, neo-soul, funk feel to it, and this album gives off instant Café vibes. This album feels authentic. It takes me back to the days of groups like The Rebirth or Jazzy Fat Nasties, with a little sprinkle of Esperanza Spalding's second album, her self-titled second album, Esperanza. This album feels like I'm enjoying a nice appetizer over a soothing glass of wine at a city winery. Vocally, Zoe sounds amazing. Instrumentally, this album sounds like one big song. You can listen to this album all the way through and not be bothered by it. Though some of the production doesn't take too many risks, the album does not get redundant. Lava Love was definitely a pleasant experience, and I highly recommend this project. Overall, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Up next, we got Common with his new release, A Beautiful Revolution Part 2. Now, I don't need to do a big introduction. If you don't know who Common is by now, you don't live on Earth. This is Common's 13th studio album, which features 11 songs, rounding off at about 40 minutes. Common gives us another inspirational effort with the second volume of this Beautiful Revolution series. Now, I do think that part 2 is better than part 1 of this series, with some dope features from the likes of Black Thought and great vocal performances from PJ, who I think, by the way, really needs to drop some material on her own. She has a very good voice. I like her energy that she brings to each song on this album. I would love to hear more from her in the future. Although I enjoyed this effort from Common, I wasn't blown away. It's the same fist in the air, all peace, all love Common that has dominated his past few projects. However, I will say, lyrically and instrumentally, Common stepped his game up. But all in all, I think it's a far cry from the Common that I grew up off of, and that's fine. That is fine. He's a lot more polished. He's a lot more clean. The lyrics are cleaner. You can play this for all ages. It's not talking about anything bad or anything of that nature, but this is a very good project to listen to. With that being said, I still find myself going back to this album for seconds and for thirds, and as a result, I give this album a 7 out of 10. Good effort from Common. For those who are huge Common fans, you'll dig this album. If you're not a Common fan, but you want to listen to something a little bit more listener friendly, go ahead, listen to it. You'll really enjoy it. Last but not least, we got Masego, Capital Cuts. This is an EP. This is just a live studio edition of his hits that he's did off his previous work. Nothing really new to see here, but if you're a huge fan of Masego, you can't get enough of his music. This will scratch that Masego itch for you. So check it out if you haven't done so already. It's just a live studio project, live instrumentation. It's a good listen. For all those who do not know, Aliyah's music is now available on all streaming platforms. Now, I did a previous episode of a review of One in a Million, and at the time, her self-titled third album was not available for streaming yet. And so now it is, and it's a lot of debates going on right now about which album is better, this one or One in a Million. I still think One in a Million is better, but you see the growth on Aliyah's third project. And it's unfortunate because I think this, to me, is the hardest album to listen to because at the time she died around the time this project dropped, and it was just hard to listen to then. It's hard to listen to now because it's kind of like it feels close. It feels more close to that time where it's not gonna end well. I go back to this album when I feel like listening to certain songs, but I can't listen to this all the way through without getting emotional about it. I enjoy this project. Go check it out if you haven't listened to the Aliyah. Please educate yourself if you're not familiar with her music. To all my young fans out there that's watching the show, listen to both of those albums back to back. You will not be disappointed. And that will do it for this episode of Coffee and Beats. I am your musical barista, Rod the Magnificent. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Please do so. Hit the bell for notifications so that you can get notified. Follow my Instagram page, Rod the Magnificent Coffee and Beats. And also check out the Coffee and Beats podcast. I just dropped a new mixtape called Writers Unblocked. So if you have not checked that out, it's available on all podcasting platforms. That being said, I am the musical barista, Rod the Magnificent, and when it comes to coffee, when it comes to beats, when it comes to Starbucks sometimes, stay grounded for life. I will see you on the next one.